Hi everyone. My counter says 0, but we're going to get straight into this one, just so that the post live people can watch this without having to do all the hellos, hi, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So we'll start with our first section. We'll answer any questions at the end. Oh, let's find the question then. So point 1, breeding and selecting. Now I'm going to sort of off the bat say that Rob's got way more experience with this than me. I'll start with sort of my thoughts and my opinions. From a breeding perspective, personally, I just let things naturally occur. I don't do anything to instigate breeding, and I look forward to the spring boom. So you always get a spring boom in breeding. I let my room cool. Although my room's temperature controlled and I could maintain a temperature all year, I do keep it colder slightly in the winter, just literally to cut down on energy bills more than anything, because I heat the room. So I personally don't do anything specific to get things breeding. With regards to selecting, there's a couple of ways that I see selection. You can either and this is something that Rob taught me. You can either from your colony let your colony grow and then go and pick a day every week, and every week you go in and you take out the ones you don't want and continue to do that same day every week until you've got a genetic line that's quite strong and that you breed from that line. It's a long-term one, that is, and it's something that I am going to do. But what I'm also in the process of doing in my evolution as a Caridina keeper is I'm in the process of cycling some smaller tanks that I'm going to specifically take shrimp from a colony and put those in those, specifically selecting a male and a female, or a really nice male and a couple of females. I do have, if anyone saw the video on Sunday, I do have 2 boa type shrimp from Daniel. And at the moment they're in a breeder box and they're going to stay in that breeder box. I'm going to move them into another tank on their own. There is male and female, but I do have another female that I want to put into that mix. So literally that tank is going to start with a male and 2 females. I want to selectively breed from those genetics. And for me, that's pretty much everything that I know. I mean, we can talk about what makes a boa, what's a high grade this, what's a high grade that. You need to go and look at competition winners, what's winning competitions, scour the internet. There's a brilliant video on what a boa is by Calvin Wong that tells you what a true boa is. It's a fantastic video. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description of this post stream. And that video is absolutely amazing, and the amount of times I see people selling boa that aren't boa is well, I'm not going to go there, but you'll know yourself if you look and follow sort of some of the some of the competitions in Europe, in Asia, and you look at the winning shrimp and photos of those, you'll know what you're looking for, and it's pattern, its color density, its legs. Are the legs striped? Are the legs more than striped? It's spider legs. The overall shape, and it's a group of shrimp. So what you're aiming for is all of your shrimp in that colony to sort of have those characteristics. But enough of me. Rob's much better on this subject than I am, so I'm going to hand over to Rob here on breeding and selecting, and what Rob does and what Rob sees and what his experiences are.
When it comes down to breeding and selecting, there's no said shrimp of Caridina. You should never really have just one tank. For that one species of shrimp, you're going to get 3 or 4 different varieties come from it. So at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, shrimp keeping, you do need multiple tanks.
If you're looking at breeding,
when it comes to breeding, quality, I'd rather start with 1 or 2 shrimp of a high quality than 10 or 20 of a mid to low quality. Just for the simple fact I'm kind of going straight to the creme de la creme. I know that the offspring, what's going to come from them top shrimp, I'm going to have very little culling because of the quality of genetics. Now, if there was your basic boa, just a standard low grade, it would need a hell of a lot more selecting. You would get way more galaxies, way more fish bones, and so on.
Yeah.
Blue teal, blue bolts. But down to selecting, what is selecting? It depends what shrimp you're selecting. For instance, if it's boas, I always go for a nice clean coat, which is the back end. I don't like full coverage. I like a little black base all the way along the bottom of the skirt and on the face. I love cheek patterns where the side of the cheek almost looks like a pattern of a Z or a 7 with a dot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with boa, and obviously this is Caridina for beginners, so boa's probably sort of up there, high end, they're expensive shrimp. But with the boa, the bigger the cheek spots, they almost sort of overlap, but you do get a patterning in them. Some of the boa from Asia are sort of thousands of dollars, can be thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Probably a question for you, Rob. If somebody wanted to sort of buy some Caridina, beginners Caridina, where would you, and then sort of select from there, or take out the weaker strains to try and build a better strain? What Caridina would you sort of suggest that people start with a low end and sort of try and develop that, or get
something
increase?
Like a PRL, just your basic PRL, not a no entry, not an Inamora, just a standard pure red line, and see what they can produce and see what comes from that. I think the red and white PRL is much better than the Galaxy, for instance. A Galaxy, what do you call it? It's gone. But PRL, crystal red, PRL would be much better.
And then sort of work on that for colour.
Yeah, I think they're more workable. Less culling, more selecting. It would be PRL.
Yeah, see, I've struggled with PRL, but for some reason I've just, at the moment, it's just working. I did start with decent grade PRL anyway, and they kick out the odd weak one, don't get me wrong, they do kick out the odd weak one, but I was actually counting, I did buy some off Daniel as well, so I put 10 in off Daniel, and I was down to four of my own, literally 4 of my own, and I think I lost a couple before I moved them. And in that tank now, I counted at least 50, and the babies are doing really well, and hopefully that colony will sort of boom. But a lot of them are, some of them are white. I'm talking sort of, pure white, crystal white. They've got
Inamara. I would take them away and I would make something from, because you can't get whiter than a pure red line. You can't get whiter than that white.
Yeah, there are some in there that are absolutely stunningly white. I do have a tank cycling on the same soil that they're on, but I was looking at the young, and I noticed in the young there's at least 10 or 12 out of those young that have got that sort of, this white. So I'm not rocking the GB merch today, but as white as my t-shirt, or as white as I can get my t-shirt. But okay, so so if somebody wanted to sort of start down the road of breeding and selecting, pure red line is a good place to start, or pure black line for that matter.
Pure red line, pure black. Yes, both identical in my opinion. So a good starting point.
Okay, cool. Do you want to do a Q&A on that breeding and selecting then?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
It's just I've got to scroll down and find it. So. Okay, guys, we're in the comments for the first time. So, hi, Jeff. Let's have a look. I'm going to scroll back through the comments. Oh, wow, there's loads. So, hello, Jeff. Hello, Keith. I'm sure this is from Rob as well. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Marie. Hi, Sam. Hi, Collaboration of Curiosities. I think that's a Dell.
Yeah.
So Jeff said that he was thinking about, I put that up on screen, he was thinking about PBL or PRL. They are a good, I mean, the thing is they are pure red line and pure black line, so they are a good thing to start with, and you will get some variances that are better than others, and what you're looking for is depth of, I mean, the white is probably more important than the red, but equally, you know, the red patterning. So if you can sort of, I think the peak is where you've literally got like a little smile across the head. Can't think. Yeah, they are called. There's Crown, Missouri.
Yeah,
I think there's Smile. There's loads of them, but
various names.
There's I'll put it in the group, actually, in the Facebook group. There's a really good sort of overhead picture that's sort of been hand drawn of all the different grades, all the different types, and you know, it's a Missouri, it's a no entry, it's a Hinamaru, all of those. So I'll put those in. What would a pure white from a Galaxy? So shrimp. So I don't know the answer to this. What
Pure
would a pure white?
Pure white lamb
from Galaxy Fishbone.
You get pure white lamb. Yeah, it's just another genetics. It might not come out as pure white, but it might come out of the white what it followed off the parents.
Yeah, so because the Galaxy Fishbone has so much genetic material, it could throw out a pure white line.
They do, but they tend to sometimes turn into a really dull, faded red steel. Sometimes you can get a blue steel, what's all white almost.
I get the occasional really.
Eventually, they don't tend to go bright white. They'll go more creamy colour.
Yeah, I've got one in my Pinto. So my German spotteds occasionally produce Pinto that aren't spotted, but I also get like a really pale red steel out of them. So in the genetics of that Pinto, there's definitely sort of red steel and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stephen P, afternoon. Rob's brilliant on live. Keep speaking you up, Rob.
Keep.
Crazy for seahorses. Hello. Thanks, Keith. Rob's put your Keith's put your channel in.
Thank you.
The pH of Caridina, are there variants in the varieties? Yeah, there is. So
yes,
you may have seen my video earlier where because of my plans and my selection process, I've got a colony of tangerine tigers that I'm trying to move on, and a bargain price, and I mean a bargain price, but it sort of pays me. It's in my interest to move them. I need the real estate, and I've currently got them on a pH of 6.4. I'm using a different soil to hold that pH of 6.4. They're still on 5GH and 0 KH, but the pH is buffered at 6.4. I found a soil that gives me a higher pH, and that's what I keep most of my tigers on.
pH is more important than your GH when it comes to some tiger variants. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, pure red line, you're looking 5.5 around that mark, 5.5 to 6. TDS 120 to 150, but you want to try and maintain a GH of 4 to 5, ideally 5.
Because if you don't make it 4 to 5, your white shrimp will start to go very pale, fade in colour, and that's usually lack of mineral content and lack of GH in the water.
It's a good answer, that is, because Keith asked the question that calcium makes the white stronger. So there's a few things.
Any calcium source. I mean, for instance, you've got your Etel Aqua, what you sell, Glenn. You've got your Etel Aqua White. This is specifically got a high mineral content and calcium for that reason, and it actually it does what it says.
So there's a few different whites that I sell, and I do use them, but I do rotate them as well. So I don't
Me too.
specifically always feed my my white base shrimp. I don't always feed them white. I do rotation in my food. So they've had snowflake yesterday because it doesn't go off. There's babies everywhere, and I want those babies to have a constant food source. So having snowflake in the tank sort of, in my mind, works. But I do feed white to my whites. I'll feed it to my other shrimp as well. It's just in my rotation.
Spinach and nettle are good for white shrimp as well. For white,
Yeah,
good
they've
white
got a high
pigment.
calcium content, haven't they?
Yeah, and contain other minerals as well. Yes, trace elements and whatnot.
That's a really good question. So naturally, they won't have any carbonate hardness. Where they would occur in nature. This is just my understanding. Don't take this as fact. My understanding is where they are in nature, the water comes through peats and it softens the water and removes any carbonate hardness. Yeah. So in nature, the soil and the environment they're in maintains the pH, and we're just trying to replicate that in an aquarium.
In nature, it's naturally buffering.
Yeah, through peats and
soil,
breaking
peats,
down
leaves,
of
twigs, leaves, tree trunks.
Yeah, if you have KH will, although a soil will remove KH, you then sort of deplete in the longevity of that soil. So soils will give you anywhere from 3 months. It's the pH 5.5. Don't buy it. It looks brilliant, but it just doesn't work. It works for a few months. Other soils last a year. But ideally you're looking for a soil to last up to 2 years. Rob can probably answer this actually, because I'm trying to find some information, or anyone from the States can answer this. I'm looking at a new supplier to bring in another soil that I've wanted to try for ages, and I've never found it in the UK, but I have been talking to a supplier for Brightwell soils, but I want to know, does it leach ammonia? What pH does it buffer to? And what's its longevity? 5.8's perfect.
I got about 16 months out of it. It wasn't a very thick layer. It was about a centimetre deep. I've also used all the remineralisers from Brightwell. Do exactly like all of the minerals. pH, I was getting 5.8, 5.7. Overall, the shrimp on it multiplied like you wouldn't believe. And I think that's down to starting with a good quality soil.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of getting some in just to try for myself.
They're near me who sell it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they are near you.
Literally about 10 minutes in car.
I need to work. I need to work my way through. They've sent me a PDF of all the products, but it's mainly marine, so they do a lot of marine products. I've got to pick out the shrimp section because it's not broken down into sections.
No.
And on the PDF, they've tried so hard to get as much as they could on a page. It's the font is about 0.0005 or something. I know you can zoom a PDF, but you can only zoom it so big. I think even at sort of 300%, I can barely just read it, and these are ultra thin glasses, and if they weren't, they'd be like this. So Stephen said Caridina seem unique in that they can't adapt to harder water like many soft water fish can. Some species can to a degree. So tigers, for example.
When you say hard water, define hard water for a Caridina. Go on.
So yeah, some species can tolerate some KH, but probably because they like a higher pH. You know, stuff that's sort of like 6.6 to 7 or 7.5 that will live in that range will tolerate some KH. But in the main, 0 to 1 KH for most softwater Caridina, and we stick to the 0. You know, but they'll handle 1. But as we mentioned, if the, you know, even if you, I think keeping it at 0 is more for our benefit than at 1,
Yeah.
because even if you put it in at 1, the soil's going to suck it out, and you're going to sort of reduce the.
But a soil what goes from wet for lasting 2 years before reset could last you 1 year, just for the just for containing KH.
Yeah. So yeah, there's sort of a fine balance there. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I forgot to turn the fly zapper off, and there's a few. There's not so many these days, but there's a few gnats flying around. Brightwell. So yeah, let's put this one up first. Brightwell does come highly recommended from Caridina breeders in the US. Yeah, I've been looking at it for years, but I've never found it in the UK. And then out of the blue, somebody sent a flyer to the purchasing manager at GB Shrimp UK Limited, and straight on it likes. So I got a message.
Flip Aquatics uses all Brightwell products for all his Caridina.
Yeah, specifically, doesn't he? And I think it was Flip videos that I initially watched. Yeah. So let's put this one up. Fish Story said something about Caridina in the hobby were bred in lab grade conditions for generations, which reduced their hardiness. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because of the variations and the fact that Caridina don't create a wild type. You just get cross genetics, unlike Neocaridina. That's probably right. Some of the sort of higher end, more genetically diverse patterns and types of Caridina probably are. That's probably correct, and that's probably why they're so, or can be so, temperamental.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this question from Jeff.
Go on.
Jeff's, I'm going to read it out. So Jeff says, so to each Caridina, you'd ideally need 3 tanks per, 1 original tank, a cull, and a tank to reset before the life of the soil exhausts. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no.
I'd like 3 tanks. So I'd like a almost identical. I'd like a high grade that I could keep taking stuff out of,
down into a higher sales, yes.
Down into a medium grade, which would probably be my sales tank that I'd probably sell from, because people won't want to pay what's in the other tank. But,
no, this is it.
And then anything below that grade would go into a cold tank or a mixed tank, as we call it, which is our next section actually. So yeah, I mean, if you're thinning out a colony to just keep the creme de la creme in there, you don't.
Yes.
There'll be stuff in there that you don't want to put in a mixed tank because it's still too nice to put in a mixed tank. So at least 2 per type and a mixed tank. But we've got our next section talks about mixed tank, and our last section talks about multiple tank syndrome. So we'll sort of move on to that. Coming soon, John. I just need to get an order in. So I've already spoke to them, and then Keith has put mixed tanks are fascinating. So, okay, brilliant. I really enjoyed that because there was some really sort of valid questions in there.
Good questions.
Breeding and selecting, well, probably wasn't the best starting point, but it feeds really well into the other stuff that we've got to talk about. So,
it does.
We're not going to ignore you guys. We're I'm deliberately not looking at comments. I think Rob's just going to wave because he's got them on the TV until we get to the end of each section, just because it keeps continuity, and I'm keen to keep continuity. So let me find part 2 then. Let's take, yeah, that's it. Banners. Okay. So mixed tanks and their importance. I'm a great believer in, probably because I did it, in starting with a mixed tank. So Michelin's, Coles, whatever you want to call them, people in the hobby will probably give you them. You know, you'll probably find people that will give you something out of their mixed tank to start with. What they're really good for is, A, they're cheap. So you learn a lot from a mixed tank in your early days of keeping Caridina. You know, you either keep them alive or you don't. So that's sort of a good starting point. But even now, and I'm sure Rob will say the same, watching a mixed tank and what a mixed tank produces is absolutely fascinating. So I've got a mixed tiger tank. I've literally moved it within the last few days. I've moved it from the top shelf down to a bigger tank in the bottom one. And I did drop in a couple of orange eye blue tigers into that, in with red tigers. And what I was hoping for, and it didn't happen, what I was hoping for was a blue shrimp with red stripes and orange eyes. Yeah, I've seen one. I know it doesn't. And what I ended up with was tiger shrimp. So shrimp that look like wild black tigers, even though they come from wild red tigers and a cross.
Yeah. They'd revert back to the natural.
Those ones will, yeah. But I have seen in the second and third generations now, I'm starting to see blue with like a rusting stripe.
Yeah. Generation 3, generation 5, you might also start seeing orange eyes.
I've got orange eyes.
Yeah, they'll have the heterogeneous for orange eyes.
Yeah, I like that, you know, and then I suppose if we really wanted to push that, I mean, I'm just happy to leave it as a mixed tiger tank, but if I really wanted to push that, I could start selecting out then those sort of F2s, F3s, and sort of separating them out into their own breeding tanks. But
yeah,
I love a mixed tank, and my standard mixed tank is one that I sit and watch more than my other tanks, because they can just kick out some amazing, weird and wonderful pattern from genetics that have crossed genetics. Yeah, new strains. You know, theoretically, you could have them. So if you plan on breeding and culling, not to the point where you're going to actually cull them and kill them, you know, you need a mixed tank, and I think it's a brilliant way to start. So in the hobby, the importance of a mixed tank, unless you're happy to cull or feed them to something, you know, which I'm not a fan of, you need a mixed tank. If I've got dead shrimp, they do get fed to other things. So as you know, I keep isopods, and they love a bit of protein, and it's recycling. It's recycling. So I mean, what else do you do? Throw it in the bin. So they get fed and used and stuff. But love a mixed tank, and if you're selling stuff or giving stuff away from your mixed tank, because the density of different populations and different genetics are constantly changing, so is your mixed tank. Massively valid.
Always revolving.
Yeah, I'd 100% recommend anyone starting gets a mixed tank.
Starts out white and orange shrimp, for instance, and by the time you've got a year down the line, you've got blue shrimp, you've got yellow shrimp, you've got black shrimp, you've got white shrimp, you've got white shrimp with red stripes, but orange tiger genetics mixed in, which is your Michelin's.
Yeah.
And they're fascinating to watch, unlike Neo Caridina.
Yeah. Neos, for me, although I keep them, with Neos, you're constantly having to cull, and I personally don't have room to have a Neo cull tank. I just don't have one. They go into one of the tanks in the house, and if they've got a couple of apistos that occasionally knock them off, but that they'll survive in there as well.
I mean, the minute you don't cull your Neo Caridina, you just eventually
genetics are gone.
They're gone, and they're going to revert back to the wild type.
So I've noticed a couple in my green jades that need to come out, but
green jades you need to heavily cull.
I've got one more thing from me, and then I'll pass over to Rob on mixed tanks, and that's I've got a rule of it's a rule that I've heard and saw and read about, and I stick to that rule. And once something's gone into my mixed tank, it never comes back out. So if I put a fish bone in, and as it ages, it gets really nice, it's never coming out. That I never take it out of there. A male, maybe, if there's an absolutely stunning male that was an ugly duckling as a youngster, but females, I'd never ever take them out. And to be honest, I don't take the males out. But if I threw an ugly duckling male in there and the male turned out as it grew to be absolutely stunning, there's a good chance I'd take him out. And getting good quality males is harder than getting good quality females.
Agreed.
It's harder. It's harder to get a top grade male because people keep them because of the genetics they can pass on. You can't get them, So I don't know what Rob thinks about mixed tank. I know he's got a nice mixed tank with OE genes.
For me, like I mentioned earlier, regarding for one shrimp, you're going to need 3 tanks. Not necessarily. If you want to selective breed low, medium, high grades from them shrimp, then yes. But what I do in my mixed tank, all my medium and low grade go in the mixed tank. Nothing high grade goes in. All high grade stay in their only tanks. So my mixed tank has got some very, very high grade shrimp in it.
And for the hobbyist, I mean, mine's a business, so I need to separate them. But you're right. I suppose for the hobbyist, if they're only interested in, they keep 2 types of shrimp in a mixed tank. Yeah. Getting those 2 colonies to be the best they can, and a shrimp tank that's going to just sort of kick out weird and wonderful things. That's fine. Yeah. Or one and one. If you've got 1 tank of galaxy fish bones and a mixed tank that you put everything else in. And if you start with a mixed tank and it's got different genetics in, even better, because you'll sort of get those to cross. So I think both of it. I mean, Rob's got an orange eye mixed tank.
Yes.
So he's got all his orange eye genetics in that mixed tank, which
literally
is
all orange eyes. Lots of new babies in there now. Lots of new babies. Some are showing to be funky blue tigers with a rusty red pattern. I showed Keith and you wasn't live when I was live. I showed Keith and
I've seen them, I think.
No, but
he sent me photos.
No, the photo didn't do it justice. It was more that the live thingy I got was miles better.
Yeah, have you published it?
No,
haven't you? I think the photo you sent me in
video I have, yes.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I'm sure on the photo you'd zoomed into it, and it was quite far back in the tank on the matting.
It's like red and blue mixed with a little tiger stripes on the bottom, just on the bottom of the skirt, not the top, and very, 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 very orange eyes.
Well, you had a green one as well, didn't you? Come out.
Yeah, in my mixed tank I had a green Caridina come out, but didn't live long.
Okay, we'll jump into Q&A. If anyone's watching, I've blacked a tank out behind me for a reason, because there's a video coming out on that tank soon, and I don't want people to see it, so that's why it's covered. Otherwise, you'd have a row of tanks down there. I've literally just magneted a couple of boards on there. So let's go back to Q&A then on mixed tanks, and we'll see if we can. Tiger Neos. More tanks, awesome, but more work. Let's see if we can go back to. So Keith said mixed tanks are fascinating.
Yes.
Stephen says the Garden of Eden converts their older soil tanks to Caridina tanks.
He does. He reuses it in Caridina. Well, why wouldn't you? Because if it's not buffering no longer, it's just it then becomes an inherent substrate. So and the cost of substrate when you've got 400 plus tanks, it totally makes sense.
it's bad. It's my expenses with just 20 tanks. If I'm cutting a new bag of soil, I hate opening a new bag of soil because that new bag of soil I could sell, but I have to. I have reused some soils recently, so the
1 second, I'm just going to switch my camera around while I just smoke.
yeah, okay.
I'll still be here.
So 500 tanks. I think I'd be looking to get an excavator and a truck and go and get some soil from wherever they make it at night. Yeah, more tanks is more work, but John's put more tanks equals is awesome, but more work. I don't.
Not if you work smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So I put that board up where sort of Monday I'll feed the shrimp, spray the frogs, miss the spiders, feed the spiders, and nothing else. So literally on a Monday that can take me 10 minutes. Tuesday I don't feed the shrimp.
Yeah.
I spray the frogs, feed the frogs on a Tuesday. That's probably the longest that I've got. Miss the spiders every day, and spray the isopods. So the isopods probably take me an hour max. And then Wednesday, feed the shrimp. Don't feed them all. Miss the spiders, and then on alternate weeks I'll add probiotics or enzymes. Thursday,
I do that once a week.
Thursday, spray the frogs, feed the frogs, miss the spiders. Friday, feed the shrimp, spray the frogs, miss the spiders, spray the pods. Some of them.
Can I ask you, why do you make work for you spraying your frogs and stuff when you could have a misting system or a rain system?
Because I haven't got the available cash to buy one.
In that case, do you want a misting system? Would you like a misting system?
No, I want the. There's one I want.
You run great.
Thank you, though. The frog tanks that I've got clips specifically for a specific misting system, and you can set it on timers. You just fill the reservoir. So it is something that I will do at some point. Yeah. But it's juggling the money, and now that I'm not working to the point where I've got a lot of disposable income, I've got to sort of just play careful. Jeff said using the well-seeded sponge filters, buffering substrate, marine mineralizer, use RO water, when to add new shrimp.
It means, yeah, go on, please.
So depends on the soil. So some soils will leach ammonia and some won't. If it's an ammonia leaching soil, even using a seeded, you've got to wait for it to stop leaching. So testing. Buffering substrate buffers the pH. Remineralizer for RO water sets the general hardness. Yeah. And when to add new shrimp. Ideally, I'm impatient, so ideally you want it to go through a full cycle. If it's a non-leaching soil, I'll add bacters. Even with a seeded sponge, I'll still add my bacterial powders when I'm setting it up. And what I'm looking for is life and algae growth in that tank. So that can take 2, 3, 4 weeks for me. I mean, I don't want it swimming, but sometimes they are just based on, swimming in algae. A product that I use, I'm seeing copepods within 8 to 10 days in a new tank. But that's what I'm looking for. I know. I'm looking for life in an aquarium. I'm looking for life. I'm looking for biofilm. I'm looking for algae. Even after cycle. So if your tank cycled and there's no ammonia, no nitrite, or if there's nitrate. So what I'll typically do is I'll set a tank up as I'd normally set a tank up. So set the parameters, And even if it's a non-leaching, force of habit forces me to, I drain that tank 95% and fill it up with fresh water after I know it's ready. And I'll probably still leave it another 3 or 4 days before even contemplating adding shrimp in it, just to settle. So there's no, I'm impatient, but there's no shortcuts. You've got to wait your time. If I used ADA Amazonia Gold, which they've stopped making, that can take 8, 10, 12 weeks to cycle, and I'd prefer mature to cycled. So
me too.
if I had the time, even after cycle, I'd probably still let it go a few more weeks. So 3-4 months with ADA Amazonia, but say you don't. The quickest I tend to do them is 3 to 4 weeks. So I'll always put a date and the soil on a strip on the tank when I set a tank up. But I've used cycle sponges in the tank.
It's always good to write the date you started the tank down on the tank in some way, yes.
Tiger Neos. Mixed tank is awesome. I've seen it, isn't it, Jeff? Forget boas. We want the calls. It's a brilliant place to start,
My boa calls, actually, any low grade boas go into my mixed tank. So if someone gets shrimp from me, they're getting 50 to 100 pound shrimp. Some shrimps at £3.
When I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. I probably have. When I started, I was breeding Neos. Did really well with Neos. Wanted to try my hand at Caridina, and Rob offered to send me some calls from his mixed tank, but he sent me something special as well. So he sent me a load of Galaxy fish bones, and the only place I've got to put them was in my mixed tank, because it was the only tank I had it on Easter soil. So I know that, and it never did well, and it's because of the Easter soil. So it was, I think within 3 months it was reading 7.2 or something. It was horrific. I mean, it looks lovely. It looks, and then I think I moved on to environment soil after that one. So Jeff's put, seems like a product to add to keep it balanced rather than reset. So this might be worth doing a third one on resets and stuff and how to do them. I'll chat to you about resets, Jeff. You don't, depending on how you do it, you can. I've done emergency resets. So I've reset a tank, siphoned out all the soil, took the shrimp out, put soil back in, and put shrimp back in.
What you can do is if you're using a ammonia leaching soil and you've already got a tank cycled, get a bucket, fill it full of the soil, fill it full of RO water, set it up like it's GHFR, and then let that soil mature for about 8 to 12 weeks, dependent on what soil it is. Then add that soil to the new tank. You can do it in a day.
Rob does something with bags of soil. So Rob used to put bags of soil behind his media bag of soil behind his mattins. So Rob's pre-cycled soil.
I give it chance. About 6 weeks later, I'll take that soil out, and if there's a tank what needs resetting, I'll just empty that soil in there and remove the old soil by suction.
Or if you use UGF boxes, you can just put a UGF box with the soil in a bucket of RO, remineralized RO water.
Yeah.
There's many
methods.
Run it, yeah. So you can do emergency resets. I know John that's on here does like an Asian method where he'll use a very, very small amount of soil, but he'll reset a tank every 6 months. Keith said he likes the UGF idea. When water changing would be nice. 10% weekly I do on all my tanks. Occasionally I'll do 20% on some of them. Rob does something slightly different.
It's what works for you. If it works, don't change it.
So John says he works full time. He doesn't want to spend weekends doing water changes. I can water change a rack. I can water change a whole rack in under an hour.
If you're spending more time doing water changes, it goes from a hobby to a job.
Yeah. Even if I was working, I could do my entire shrimp room in a couple of hours if I'd need another bin. So the black bin there, I'd need 2 of them mixed every week, just ready to go. But I could do that on a Sunday morning, a couple of hours, the whole room, easily. That's why I split them. I split them across Saturday and a Sunday. It literally takes me under an hour.
It's the best way to do it. Spread your maintenance.
Yeah, there's always something to do. Doesn't want it to become a job with the mixed tanks.
See, exactly. That is a good question, because at the end of the day, we do not know what's going to come from, example, a crystal or a galaxy. If they're in a mixed tank, it's an open can of worms, and then you're not going to see what the true mix of them both together looks like until about generation F3, generation F4 onwards. So the first F1 and F2 are going to look like washed out shrimp, but then washed out shrimp need to be retained and taken back and kept, because then washed out shrimp will then produce F2, which will be a little bit better, or dependent which route you want to go down genetics wise.
I think the thing with the mixed tank is it's exactly that. It's a mixed tank. When unless you've got just 2 types in there, what impregnated the mum? You know, if you've got crystals and galaxies in there, did that crystal female get impregnated by a crystal male, or did it get impregnated? And the only way you'd ever know that's to separate them out and breed them individually. So you'd have to take a male and a female out, and then the young from them you'd need to recross to create F3 and stuff. But it's just nice to watch what they can produce. I think that's the point of the mix.
Some you do actually get it straight away, but most it doesn't tend to be. The babies tend to be either or of the male and the female, like 50-50, with maybe 60-30, with 10% what are a little bit mixed up.
Then Jeff's put so be vigilant testing, got it.
Yes, always.
You're looking for the tank to mature, really, not cycle.
Yes.
Yeah, mature. So matured's better. Cycled's enough.
Matured means there's more biofilm and microorganisms for said shrimp to feed on.
Yeah, which is why I prefer to, but don't always. Once it's ready, I tend to go over another week. So if it's ready in 3 weeks, I'll go 4 or 5. I want to see that algae. I want to see that algae growth. I want to see biofilm on the walls. I want to see copepods all over it, and the longer you can sort of get to that, the better. Oh, wicked.
Interested?
Be nice to see the 2nd and 3rd gen on them. Mixed OE tank, yeah. Rob's got a mixed OE tank. Brilliant. Okay, cool. Next section then. Test kits and equipment. If this stuff that we're going to talk about is for your standard test stuff, I think any test kit works. I use an API master test kit for ammonia, nitrate, nitrite, and nitrate. Just something I've always used. My years within the hobby, that's what I've used. API. NT Labs, I believe, are better, but I'm using an old kit that's probably out of date. But certain things where I want to test, I don't use API deliberately. So one of those is a hardness test kit. I use NT Labs just because the color change on the API one is so weak. It's vile. Whereas the NT Labs one, when you put that fifth drop in, that change, you can't say, oh, has it changed? It's changed. It's the change is so vivid. So hardness test kits, I use NT Labs, and I'd recommend those. Won't use API for pH because it doesn't go down low enough. But I'm more than happy with a Sera pH, a low pH test kit. They go down, they're going 0.5s, but they go right down to, I think they go down to 4 pH. Yeah, they go down to 4. So it'll be 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5. And with my pH, I use a pH meter, and I always do a comparison. The pH meters, in my opinion, any of them are slow. They're slow to read, so you have to sort of shake them, leave them a few minutes, shake them, leave them a few minutes. But I'm looking for that cross reference. So is one telling the other one that that's correct? So with my pH, my go-to would be my Sera. I'd always use the Sera. For the quick test, I'd use the Sera liquid. It's instant. But if I'm like, really, I'm sure that can't be right, then I'll go and test with my my pen and sort of do a cross reference. The testing of pH, I think, should be done every month or so, couple of months. But if you know the soil and its longevity, if everyone says, oh, that soil lasts at least 2 years, then at 23 months, then I'd start testing the pH, or even shorter, because if my pH is rising, I know that I need to get to reset that. I've just reset a tank that was over 7 that should have been 5.5, because I expected that soil to last longer than it did, and it lasted 11 months, and it was over 7 at 11 months. So I won't be using that soil again. But with the pH meters, there's a lot of, and a TDS meter for that matter, there's a lot of rubbish on the market, a lot of Chinese tat. I'm not being racist. I'm calling it for what it is. I'm not saying there aren't good ones, but a well-respected brand, if you're going to go to the expense of buying one, but buy cheap, buy twice. I use Apera. Rob uses Apera.
Buy one.
Rob uses Apera. Hannah instruments are good. I believe you can get some from a place, it might be Screwfix, where it's a pH monitor where you sort of drop a probe into the tank. I've got a feeling that probe's copper, so I haven't looked into them. But Hannah Instruments, Apera, I'd recommend both of those. There's probably other ones that are sort of well respected in the market, but that's what we use. And I used to be a TDS chaser. So I'd say, oh, my tank's at 200, my tank's at 200. What do I do? What do I do? As long as your GH is at 5, so what? You're looking for it at 5. You can lower it with water changes.
Chasing TDS is a very dangerous game.
That TDS pen will only tell you the dissolved solids in that tank. It won't tell you anything else. Where I do use it religiously is I know that my remineralizer at 5 GH is a said TDS. So when I'm mixing my water, it's just really easy to go, oh, that's at 140. I need to put a couple of mil more in. I need to put another couple of mil in to bring it to 150, dependent on what I'm using. I was speaking to Calvin Wong, a champion shrimp breeder over in Singapore, and he doesn't even test GH. Do you know that? He said, no, I don't test that.
Why would he need to when he knows the GH from his remineralizer? If you know you're remineralizing to that correct point, you've no need to.
And he said anything over 100 to 150, you're fine. But they use different salts and stuff to what we do.
A lot lower TDS from their minerals and salts.
Yeah. So he just, he said, I don't test that. He said, I just, 100 to 120 TDS he'll keep his at. But that's obviously in his mix, So equipment, Equipment, I suppose tanks come into that. Tank size minimum for me would be 10 UK gallon or 50 litres, 45, 50 litres.
45, 50 litres, yeah.
Especially from a beginner's perspective, because you want more stability. If you can get them, if it's bigger, fine. Floor space is more important than head space. So a low tank with a bigger footprint is better, in my opinion, than a tall tank with a short floor space. So tank, some type of filtration that's gentle, air driven. You probably could go for hobs, but my experience is that the shrimp get in them. But they'd work. Double sponge, or a sponge filter works. They work. And the nice thing about sponges, it gives the shrimp something to graze on, whether that be a mat and sponge.
Double sponges are also a lot easier to clean filtration wise compared to most generic types of filtration.
Take one off, clean
one off, clean it, and then another 2 weeks later take the other one off and clean it.
Do the other one off. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just make sure if it's the types with the grooves in, make sure you roll it as you're taking it out, because otherwise you'll take it out and it'll have loads of babies right around the little gaps, getting in there, hiding out of the way, eating and stuff like that. So test kits and equipment, 10 gallon tank, a good pH test kit and or pen. A quality TDS meter. You don't need a TDS meter. It just makes life a bit easier when you're mixing your salts ready to go back in. Don't get into the habit of, my tank's at 200.
You could go get your remineralizer, for instance, and do the acquired 5 mil per 10 litres or 5 mil per said amount of gallons. And as long as you follow that, you're going to achieve 150. If you know your thing is 150, you don't need that, but they are good for reference.
Jacob from Happy Shrimp House never uses a TDS meter or a general hardness test kit. He literally mixes as per the instructions and does his water changes weekly. That's it. He doesn't do anything other than that. I still test every 3rd month. Yeah, you do big water changes. You do big water changes once every so often, don't you?
I no longer do 10% a week. I do 40% water changes a month now.
Just one big one.
Just making my life, because I've got a better RO system now, and I'm getting more RO capacity. It's just made my life so much easier.
So you're doing one day a month water changes, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's working. The breeding, I'm getting loads of. There's no change. If anything, it's almost like the longer you leave the tank alone, the more it matures.
Stability.
Yeah, stability. Set and forget. Don't touch. Leave it.
John's comment that was. Cool. Let's go and say hello to a few people then. It's a pity my messages don't stay put where the last ones were.
I'm still here, Glenn, don't worry.
Okay, so Keith said his local fish shop used to sell theyre and swap them out for API. Probably profit margins. Probably profit margins.
You have to buy extra test kits for API. It doesn't come as a full kit.
I actually spoke to NT Labs and asked them why they stopped making the low pH, and what they'd said is that they had a lot of problems with them, and the low pHs weren't giving an accurate reading, so they just discontinued it. They stopped making it, and that's when I found theyre. I think I buy it outside the UK. I'd love to be able to stock it. But my suppliers, even my suppliers outside of the UK, don't sell it. I might message the MD of one of my suppliers and say, you need to get this in.
Any more questions?
So FM evening gents, FM Aquascapes, Malvin, American Pinay crew, Hi, Malvin. TDS pens only detect the dissolved solids that are ionized. Yeah, because it's just conductivity meter.
Conductivity.
Yeah, which is why I never checked TDS. I used to panic. My TDS is over 150. My TDS is. I don't bother anymore. I literally use it as a speed thing to mix my. Rather than measure stuff out, I just keep it up 5, 10, 15. What's that? Oh, that needs another 3 mil, another 5 mil, stuff like that. That's literally all I use it for. I would like to add though that when I'm mixing my water, I always make sure my TDS is where it needs to be, just with the minerals, and then I add other stuff. So I'll add like a black water extract or something to my mix water. I use a product called I've got a new one in actually, Fulvo, Shrimps Forever Fulvo, which I haven't tried, but I use Coil Drop Rich one, but it adds TDS, so I always test my TDS and set my TDS before I add anything else to that mix.
Yeah, I do the same too, because otherwise you're getting a TDS of 150 and it's actually picking up some of the fulvic acids and stuff.
Yeah, it's dissolved solid. Whichever way you look at it, whatever you add is a dissolved solid, you know. Jeff's put 20 gallon long. Yeah, I'm not sure on the height of those. I know in the States there's like a 20 long, a 40 long. They're sort of standard tank sizes. I think the US gallon is something like 3.7 liters. So a 20 is something like 65, 70 litre tank.
25 litres is 5 gallons.
So somebody can do how many litres into? Somebody can do a FFL. FFL convert UK to US gallons or something. Please give Rob a sub. So Keith's put Rob's channel up.
Thanks, Keith.
Okay, fantastic question, and we haven't obviously covered this, and we probably should have. Doesn't a big water change shock the shrimp? No.
Is this for me?
Because for both of us. So doesn't a big water change shock the shrimp? Not if you put it back in slowly.
Drip it slowly. No difference.
You know, it's only like getting new shrimp and dripping them in.
You've got to be patient. No, but a big water change does it. Now, if I poured it in, you can guarantee all my shrimp would probably die. But because I drip it in at, say, 3 drips a second, it may take 2 to 4 hours to fill, and then I know that my shrimp are going to be okay.
What's really weird here is I've saw something that goes totally against this from another Singapore breeder. So Derek from Shrimps Affair, when he does his water changes, he does massive water changes. He's got like a drain system on his racks. Does massive water changes, fills his tank up with pure RO, and then goes and remineralizes each tank. So he doesn't mix it first. He fills it with pure RO and then puts the minerals in.
Mix direct into the tank, yeah.
That was on a video. That was on a Shrimp Mania video when he visited Singapore. Shrimp Mania did a video, and it's something like a top breeder secrets revealed or something like that. It was, but I'm not brave enough to do that. But by all accounts, he does it.
You're not ready for that level yet.
I'm not ready for that at all. No, not a chance. Maybe once I've got a warehouse full of shrimp and I'm floating in cash. I don't know.
I've personally done it, Glenn. I've done it.
Remineralised the tank.
Yeah, we're shrimping and remineralised it. Yeah, and I didn't have a problem.
Yeah, he does it. I think they're hardier than people. I think if you stick to the rules, you stick to the rules. But I think they're hardier than most people.
Some, not all.
Make out, you know. Some, yeah. So some really sort of highly
if they contain them,
genetic.
if genetics of tigers, for instance, they tend to be a lot more forgiving than say something with no tiger genetics in it.
Some of it would just be, so bee shrimps or. So yeah, we drip back in. I don't know if I can show it, but what I've got is each rack is set up on a system with float valves, and I plug my bucket of water in, my bucket of mixed water into that. They're all set to sort of just go in. Not a drip, it's like a fast drip.
Yeah, you turn the tap 3/4 and you get a slow drip. Yeah.
So they're all set that way, and I literally just fire it up and go. And occasionally have an accident where one of the float valves are stuck, but not very often.
Oh, that is a good question, and I know the answer to this.
My one.
The hardest, man would have to be the metallic purple Nanashi. I found them near on. I did breed them in the end, but keeping the numbers up for some reason, just I went through a fluctuation of having many, and then they just dwindled. I did nothing to the tank. I left alone, fed once a week. But I found metallic purple, and actually the hardest Caridina to produce of all. And you know, I've had probably 40, 50 different types of Caridina.
What's the most expensive shrimp you've had, Rob?
The most expensive shrimp I have at the current time is my blue boas and my orange base boas, which are worth about, if I'm being realistic, worth about £300 to £500
each. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said at the start about spending on shrimp?
Yeah.
Tell everybody.
You tell them.
I said to Rob at the start, I said, I'll never spend more than £10 on a shrimp.
Yeah,
at
that's
the start.
Right. These were Glenn's famous last words.
I've bought shrimp that are circa £100 plus.
It's so easy to do, though.
And it's weird, you know, for me, one of the easiest shrimp to keep has been one of my hardest challenges. So pure red line, I've bought hundreds and lost hundreds, and I've never managed to get them to keep the numbers up. And all of a sudden, I've hit that sweet spot with them, and it was moving them from the tank they were in to another tank. Now, what's weird is John, who's in the chat, put them on the same soil that I'm having. He's just blew up. Paul, one of my customers, did exactly the same. He put them on aquasolum, and they just blew up. I couldn't keep them. They've sort of gone. They've blew up now, but it's took me 2 years.
You saw my colony of them. Man thrived.
With I've seen in the UK. Can you remember that guy's name in Nottingham, Rob, who I went to visit and bought some shrimp off him? He used to be on band.
No, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it.
Eastern European guy disappeared. Gavin might know if Gavin's still in here, but it disappeared.
His name be Andrew Brock.
No.
Begin with an N.
It'll come to me. Gavin might know if he's still in. He'll put a message up. But
Adrian
B.
Yeah, it was Adrian B.
Yeah, it was Adrian B. But he had some absolutely stunning, and I mean stunning, that win competition stunning red fancy tiger. But he wanted, was it £150 each, Rob, or something?
£150 each.
£150 each, and at the time there was no way I was spending. There was no way I was spending more than a tenner on a shrimp. They were absolutely stunning. It's one of my favourite shrimp and still is. but I do have the genetics to build on a colony of those, which is my first separation. I'm going to separate some shrimp into a smaller tank just specifically to breed are going to be galaxies and a couple of boa or boa type shrimp. And then the next one I'm going to work on is my red fancy tigers. And they say that if you cross them with a black, you darken the red in the second and third generation.
It makes the red more blood red. The black genetics make the red more blood red.
And I don't think there's any blacks in the UK, but I do have a couple. They're not brilliant, but they've got the black, the black genes there. I've got a couple of them in my lower grade one. So, how much does Vin sell his boa for? $8,000 or something?
$2,000 to $8,000 a boa.
I don't know if that's. Well, it's Taiwan, isn't he? So it won't be Singapore dollars. I'm not 100% sure. Let's go through this. 4 litre to a gallon. Yeah, I've got a feeling it's 3.78, Jeff, something like that. We're 4.55 to a gallon. 3.78. I was 0.01 of a litre off.
It was a drop off.
Hi, Al.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Gord.
God's in the house.
So FM says Neo Caridina are a lot more forgiving when it comes to large water changes. Yeah, absolutely. They're pretty bulletproof. They're pretty bulletproof. I still drip them if I get some new ones in. I'll still drip them. Probably a faster drip, but I do drip them still. Keith said, the way I see rules is if you don't understand the impact of not following them, follow. If you understand the impacts of not following and know what to expect, then you're ready to bend rules. That's a brilliant way of putting that, Keith, because I flop and drop some shrimp. So if I'm moving stuff from one tank to another, I'll literally flop and drop it, even if it's on a different soil. But the impact is I could lose those shrimp, but most of my parameters are, even if they're different, that they're close enough not to cause an impact. Al says she had to read that twice, but well said. Yeah, it's true. The rules are there. I mean, this is for beginners. Follow the rules, and once you understand them, and you can tweak them from your own experiences,
you then become comfy. You become comfy with them shrimp and them tanks, and then you know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah,
we are all individual people, so we tend to do things that a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, though. If you want to start Caridina, it just gets.
I've spent crazily. You know I have.
Rob spent a lot of money and was given bad information at the start.
Unfortunately, not all the shrimp didn't make it.
I'm lucky enough to have met Rob when I started because I took advice. I've still had to learn the hard way. I suppose it's a bit like your kids. All you can really do. Somebody says something to me years ago. It's my stepdad, actually, and it's really stuck. He said, all you can do with your kids is teach them right from wrong, because the minute they walk out that door, they're going to go and do exactly what they want to do. And we're all the same. You know, we can take advice, but sometimes you have to find out yourself. You have to research yourself. You have to find out yourself. Yeah, no worries. Do you know what? I moved mine to a breeder box, and they bred in the breeder box. It's not called a breeder box for nothing. But yeah, I was down to 7. I put them in a breeder box because one of my customers was going to come and collect them. I was done. I'd had enough, and they went crazy in there. And I've mimicked that environment in another tank and moved them in and added to their numbers to get a bit more genetic material in there, and they've done really well. Adrian B. There's two Adrians. There's an Adrian from Nottingham, and there's an Adrian from Bristol. I want to say Bristol.
Bristol.
So there's two Adrians. I don't think it is Adrian, you know.
It's Adrian Barchick or something like that.
That's the guy from Bristol. I bought shrimp from him. I bought it might be Adrian, but there's definitely another Adrian from
Here's that one, Glenn. I remember the shrimp.
From Bristol.
Silly prices.
It's got to be a different person, because the shrimp that I saw. Oh, if I've still got the photo in my in my Dropbox or something, I'll find it and send it you, John. These are unreal. These are sort of Calvin Wong Vin quality. They're unreal. Hi, Humber Koi.
Hello.
You're welcome. Hi, Humber Koi. We'll come on to multi-tank syndrome in a minute. Cool. Okay, let's get on to the next question. When we originally planned this one, Rob wasn't sure whether to put this one in. I'll keep it. I'll keep this one short, but I want to. I just want to talk about probably the prevention side of it more than anything. There's various pests in the shrimp hobby. Anyone that's kept Caridina, or any shrimp for that matter, will at some point come across, all my shrimp are dying, all my shrimp are dying. What, you know, why do they die? And there's many reasons why they die, but there are ways to combat that. And one of them is prevention. So when you get your shrimp, check them for things like parasites, Vorticella, Scutariella japonica, and little growths, like little white parasites around them, furriness almost they'll look like. So check them for those. Shrimp can also arrive with planaria inside them.
Yep. So
planaria can get into the head of the shrimp, and they'll eat it from the inside out. Chris Luckhope, if any of you follow him on YouTube, has got a video of shrimp coming out of planaria coming out of a shrimp's head, proper macro stuff. And he said somebody had asked him to video one of their prize-winning shrimp, and literally as he was filming it in the studio for this guy, this planaria come out of it and the shrimp dropped dead. But he caught it on film, so the guy's definitely not going to say you've killed my shrimp. And how can you sort of prevent that?
Quality control.
Find them from reputable sources, recommended reputable sources.
Reputable breeder, yes, definitely.
One of the ones that I've had is I bought shrimp to add to a colony from a well-known online auction site that doesn't just auction, but it started off as an auction site. Added them straight to my colony, used a net between that colony and the colony next to it, and wiped out both colonies. And what had happened was there's no parasites on them, couldn't see anything, but they'd bought a bacterial infection with them, and I transmitted it on a net. So you can, if you feel that way, have a separate net for every tank, you know. But when you've got 20 tanks, it can become expensive. I tend to use one per row on my racks rather than sort of mix them around a bit.
I use one net per 2 tanks, but after I've used them, they always go in boiled water.
You broke up a bit there, Rob. Sorry.
I use one net per 2 tanks, and then after I've used that net, it goes in a bucket with boiling water.
Yeah, between them. Yeah, you treat yours every month, don't you?
Yes.
You sterilise your nets every month.
Always religiously, no matter what. It's just I've been burnt burnt quite a few times, and it's very bad practice to have. So now I religiously make sure they're clean, basically everything, even down to these.
Yeah,
These all get sterilised now.
That's a big set. Sorry, I'm moving about a bit. I'm struggling on my back.
That's okay.
What I'd also recommend is, if you're adding to a new tank, you don't really need to do that, but I'd probably still put those new shrimp in a breeder box on the side of that tank.
If you didn't know where they're really coming from,
them.
Yeah, you've got to put them aside, not in the tank, and monitor them, because it's so easy. It spreads like wildfire. The minute some of it attaches to a shrimp, or say that shrimp what's infected molt, that molt then goes in a tank. Other shrimp eat that molt. All them shrimp what have eaten that infected molt can become infected.
Well, get infected, yeah, and they do eat the molts. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to go. That's about as high as it'll go. I need to stand up. And then probably finally for this, and I don't know if Rob sort of wants to add to this, is I've done a video on when it all goes wrong, what do you do? And there's certain things that I make sure I've got in all the time. I'll put a link into that video. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put a link in sort of post, but the things that I keep in are carbon, Vogel. So Vogel's like a health tonic. So the first one that goes in would be Vogel. Let me grab one. So it's like a vitamin, like a booster, like an enhancer. You can use it for fish as well. Easy like Vogel.
It fights against bad bacteria as well.
So that would be the first thing that goes in. The second thing I do, well, it depends on what's happening. So if the shrimp are all swimming to the top of the tank, sort of, and dropping back down, that looks to me like poisoning. So I'd probably add carbon to something. You know, I keep a couple of small Seachem tidals. I keep a couple of them specifically for that. They don't get used for anything else, and I'll fill them with carbon, hang them on the front of the tank, and run it for a few hours. So if it is chemical, if that isn't working, then I'll add Vogel, and then if that isn't working, then I'll treat the tank with hydrogen peroxide and switch my filters off for an hour while that's being treated. And again, there's a video. That's in the video. That's a separate video treating your tank with hydrogen peroxide. But that would always be a last resort for me, the hydrogen peroxide. But it kills
hydrogen peroxide. Unless you really need it, never use it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up getting burned.
I use it in. I've overdone it trying to get rid of some BBA in another tank and wiped out half my fish. But I use it in shrimp tanks. But I use it when nothing else works, if that makes sense. So if you're losing the odd shrimp.
The only reason I used it was for blackbeard algae.
I've started using. I've actually started using the Aquadip liquid carbon to treat that in my other tank. Yeah, that one. I've started using that to treat BBA. Just spot dose, 5 mil.
If you spot dose it, and do a pipette on it, instantly it does turn it pink. Then when you put the plant back in the tank, for some reason, fish and shrimp will eat it when it's dead.
Yeah, but they don't touch it otherwise.
No.
So I don't know if Rob's got anything else to add on that, but prevention is always better than cure. You know, hang stuff in a breeder box.
Keep your hands out of tanks.
You can, keep your hands out of tanks. Use
100%. Don't use these.
I do, but that's
always wash your hands as well
before you go in the tanks and rinse them.
And don't wash your hands in some soapy water and then go put your hands in a tank. Don't do that.
Yeah, wash them in water.
Warm water. Or wash them. Plain old warm water.
Get the greases and stuff off your hand. But
all the oils.
I do put my hand in the tanks. You probably saw me using the Seachem scraper, and I only use the short one, so I've obviously got to put my hands in the tanks.
I use the long neck.
I do sell the long ones, but it's on the shelf to sell. I don't want to break my hands.
For anything else, to not put just this is just a bog standard piece of stainless steel rod with a bend at the end, and this is my best tool because if I need to move something in the tank, I can hook it, pull it out if it's
Yeah.
a plant. If a
Yeah.
food, I want to move a food to a certain area, and I don't put my hands in. So something as simple
Yeah.
as a metal stick, but make sure it doesn't rust.
Not tinkering. I say breeder boxes. The nice thing about you get your new shrimp, you want to see them in the tank that you've just cycled. I'd still put them in a breeder box because you can observe them closely.
Yeah, monitoring
Closer than you would, you know, for a week, 2 weeks. I put soil in them as well, so I'll have a bit of soil in the bottom that's cycled in my breeder boxes, and they run. I always do that. I move stuff around that way as well. So if I'm moving stuff from one tank to another that I want to breed from, I'll move them I'll put them in a breeder box, and then move the breeder box onto the other tank, and it drips that water into the breeder box. And I'll leave them in there for a couple of weeks before I put them in the tank.
It's the way to do it, really. It's for your own peace of mind more than anything.
Cool, we're getting through these pretty well. John's nemesis is Chris is a legend. His content is second to none.
Yeah, it's good at what he does.
John said his nemesis is seed shrimp.
I don't have that problem.
Overfeeding.
I have had that problem, but ever since I've started only feeding 1 day a week and I reset all my tanks, I've got no seed shrimp, not a single one.
I've also got endless to deal with them.
It usually is a tank what's been heavily feeded, and even if you say you don't feed heavily, they're clearly getting food source. It's if there's not many shrimp in there and you're only putting a small pellet or whichever, it's the sea shrimp getting it before the shrimp. If that's the case,
Overfeeding, yeah.
Without food, they don't thrive.
Do you know something, John? I do have fish, but I actually went out and bought some endlers to do a video on reducing seed shrimp. I've got a video done and planned. Kaz is getting you guys eyes in the house, the west side. Sorry, Kaz, I'm standing up because my back's killing. Freshwater's rich ichthyology. Hi. Yeah, just get a couple of male. I think if you go to PAH, they're like 3 for a tenner or something, 3 for £8, something like that. Just endlers. That's all you need. Just keep them in one of your neo tanks, and don't just put them into.
Don't leave them in the tank so long because the soft water is not really ideal.
Yeah, so I keep them in my neo tanks, and I whip them out the neo tanks and into the Caridina tanks for the period I need them to be in.
Refractory acclimate them to them parameters, and then do the same.
Shock them, yeah.
Otherwise, you shock your fish and wonder why it's bad.
Hi, Rebecca, whoever Rebecca
is. Hello, Rebecca. Fresh water for Rebecca.
Ah, Rebecca, yeah. Hi, Rebecca.
She knows her stuff.
Jeff's got some wonderful endlers. They're good for seed shrimp, to be honest. It was actually Kaz's idea to do the video on seed shrimp removal. So
yeah, because a lot of people have that issue and don't know how to rectify it.
Kaz gave me the idea to do that. So, any questions on pests? Pests, as in. So I'm trying to remember what it was called. Pests, diseases, and prevention, I think it was.
It was indeed.
Pest diseases, prevention, and emergency kits. Once this is sort of processed, once this video is processed, and I'll make it public, I'll put some links in it to a couple of videos that I've mentioned in here. One of them is what happens when it all goes wrong, and the other one is about the use of hydrogen peroxide in a shrimp tank and the do's and don'ts.
Morley the don'ts with hydrogen peroxide. Don't use it.
Jeff says you need piranha for scuds. Do you know how to get rid? I can tell you how to get rid of scuds, Jeff. Dead easy.
Nuclear bomb.
Yeah. You empty the tank, you bleach it, so all the silicon's bleached. You put something like Prime in it, soak it for a week, and then start from scratch. That's how you get rid of scuds.
Yeah, you've got to leave the tank empty for a while for them to vanish.
You can bleach them out.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can bleach them out. I mean, I've moved stuff around, and I know that I've took seed shrimp in the plants and the bits of wood and stuff that I've moved with them. I know that, but I'm not too worried about them because I've got endless in my armory. Just told you, Jeff. You need to nuke. Rob said you need to nuke them, or you need to strip the tank, bleach it, soak it in chlor. So in the States, you can get a product called Clorox, I think it's called,
Clorox,
which is you can't get it here, which is just a pure chlorine bleach. Bleach the tank out, soak it in that bleach for a week, drain it out, fill it up, fill it with Prime, soak it in Prime for a week, and away you go. And when you reset that tank, you cannot put anything like plants and stuff that was in it before. You've got to incinerate with fire, and then you'll get rid of your scud problem. And anything that you bring in to put in there, quarantine if it's alive. Blowtorch, yeah, that works.
Blowtorch and TNT.
Okay, so this is, I'm not sure if Helen's in the chat, but Helen deliberately asked us to put this one in. How to keep tanks cool in summer. I personally don't have a problem with this. My room's temperature controlled, so I haven't got a problem with this, but I do have tanks in the house that I get problems with. So people say that these across tank fans don't work. They do. I mean, you need them to be open because the evaporative process will lower the temperature by up to 4 degrees. They work.
Yeah, but using them fans, Glenn, if you're not prepared, if you're a person what doesn't never do top offs for evaporation, you can run into so many problems.
Oh, they'll create evaporation. 100%. They'll create evaporation.
It created. You lose three. I know because I did it. You lose 3 times as much water.
I'm gonna put this one over to Rob in its entirety, really, because I can call my tanks. I've actually got AC in the house as well, not plumbed in AC. I bought an AC unit for in here that was rubbish. Well, it wasn't rubbish, but I weren't happy with it, so I ended up buying another one that I'm really happy with, and we ended up with the original one in the house. It's just a portable one, mad noisy. It's not the nicest, but it works in the house. So my house can when it's really hot, I can put a bit of AC on in the house, and in the living room. The kitchen by nature calls, but I'm quite lucky really. This house downstairs stays cool in summer and warm in winter. Upstairs is
in summer, because our insulation, this is an old house, so in winter it's freezing and in summer it's extra toasty. Then I have the heat from all my air pumps, then I have the heat from all my lights on. My room the other day was running at 28 Celsius.
So that's another way to probably keep your tanks cooler. Switch the lights off.
I've no lights on. It's not a bad thing. But the main one for me, evaporation is water's way of naturally keeping cool.
Yeah.
So tend to not have a lid on your tank in the summer months. Yeah, you will lose more water, but the ambient temperature will stay a little bit cooler than the outside temperature.
It's
The other thing I do to combat that, I use a very big fan. If, for instance, this rack's cold, I will just go like this with no lids, and it absolutely lumbagos them, and it does work.
Yeah, it increases the evaporation.
It
The fan
increases
must
the
increase the
evaporation, which in
evaporation.
turn reduces the temperature. Oh.
Temperature, yeah. So something to add to the water change thing we were talking about earlier, really, and we've not mentioned it. Both Rob and I, before we do our water changes, we'll connect our racks up to pure RO, and we'll pump in pure. We'll do an RO top up. So if I'm doing water changes on a Saturday or a Sunday, I may come in on a Friday night with a bucket of RO, connect it to just pure RO, connect it to the system, and just run it until it's
what I'm actually doing now.
Full.
I'm just as we speak. I'm this RO here is purely for this RO full. I've just filled it with RO. This will then go into the top off. That's top offs only.
You gravity feed yours, don't you?
Yeah, I do gravity feed it. It works a treat.
Yeah. See, I haven't got the height. My garage isn't got a lot of head height. I mean, you're in an old house with high ceilings, aren't you?
I've got about 12 foot tall, 10-foot ceilings.
So I don't have that luxury, but I just combat that by pumping it. I do exactly the same.
Have you thought about putting one on the roof so the RO gets filled on the roof? It's a sealed unit. But then I would do mineralised.
I don't know how much weight it would take, but I have thought about putting a shot.
If you can stand on your roof, it'll take the work.
I was thinking about putting a potable water, sort of a flat water tank up there, and actually
like a
pumping
200 litre. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. You can get them in black, so then the light can't penetrate it. You will not get algae then. If it's jet black, you will not.
How hot's that water going to be though?
It's going to be warm. Well, that's unless you build something around it to shade it, like an overhang.
Get an AC unit running coils through it.
Well, or a water cooling system fitted into it.
To be honest, it's hot. It's hot in the 100 litre bin outside. It gets hot in there, but luckily where that is only gets sun for a couple of hours a day.
Yeah,
it literally only picks up sun for a couple of hour a day. So any other tips that you've got, Rob, for cooling tanks in the summer? Do you do the free frozen bottle thing, or?
Yeah, frozen bottles of water, but I use RO water just in case the bottle exploded and the water then got out into the tank. But I also make RO water ice cubes.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And if a tank's very high and at the same time it needs topping up, if it's very high, I will put like 6 to 8 ice cubes in, no more. And it actually reduced the tank from 27 Celsius, and it took it down in about 3 hours. It took it down to 24 degrees Celsius.
Well, what would you say is the fatal temperature where you'd start to worry?
28 Celsius.
Anything 28 and above, you're panicking.
Yes.
See, I do mine. I keep my tanks around 21, 22 in summer and about 19 to 20 in winter. But I've got the luxury. I can't believe you've never bought I can't believe you've never bought an AC unit. I can't.
It's my next big investment. I aren't having it anymore because I'm having to do way more work. And my fish room wasn't set up for way more work, as you know. I work smart, not hard.
I wonder if you'd get less evaporation if you kept the room cool as well.
Possibly, yes. Possibly. Because I know I'm getting a lot of evaporation because I've just done my RO unit and all the pipes are all wet from condensation. From the RO water being extra cold.
Cold, yeah. Okay, cool. So I say, John, I know John's got an AC unit, and it is a game changer. Just a portable AC unit. The only downside to them is you need to pipe. You need to vent them out,
They need to do it properly, yeah.
and have a drainage system for them. So mine's a hole out the wall, and I've got a drain pipe on. It's quite low. That literally runs to drain. I've piped that into the drain, and I've got a tap on it. So in the, I leave it open all the time. But what you're supposed to do is when you've got it on call, you're supposed to close. I'm supposed to close the tap so that you get the water, the evaporative water keeps the condensers cool. But then I'd end up flooding the shrimp room. So I just open. The tap's open. It's open. It stays open. Cool. Okay. We've got 2 more subjects, guys. Thanks everyone for.
Was there any questions in the chat?
Well, I'm just going to go to that now.
I'm thinking ahead. Sorry. Hope everybody's keeping nice and well.
I'm trying to go. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to go back to. Let's move this forward a bit. I'm trying to find the blowtorch. You need 5 F6 to eat your snails. 07. What is summer? Not sure we have that in the UK. Yeah, we do. We had it last
4
week.
days.
Both
4 days. Yeah, 4 days. That's our summer.
I did listen to somebody, Beresford, I think his name is, on the news, and he says after a couple of days of warm, humid weathers, the next week is going to be unsettled. Yeah, no shit. Standard summer for the UK.
We don't even need a weatherman now because our phones tell us.
Clams are the devil's spawn.
I bought clams once. It's the worst thing I ever did.
Freshwater clams?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think you've told me this story.
They multiply. I like the look of them, and I thought, oh, something that moves the soil around in the sand. Worst thing I ever did.
It's when the rain warms up. That's the summer, when the rain warms up. That's what it is. Exactly that, Keith. It's when the rain warms up. Discus North freezes several plastic pop bottles with water and then leave the lids on. Drop them in the tank and it slowly cools.
I think he has a good question, Glenn. FM, regarding evaporation and is getting water build up on his walls. The best method to if you've got open top tanks, put lids on the tanks and then combat it with a small dehumidifier.
Yeah, let's get to that. How do you stop condensation in your fish room? I run a dehumidifier and an AC unit. So I run both, and they're on sensors. So when the humidity goes above a certain level, the dehumidifier will kick in, and then the AC sort of works on temperatures as well. So I can maintain mine pretty well. Ideally, it'd be nice if I had a separate heat source, because then I could set all 3 of them up. If it gets too cold, put this one on. If it gets too warm, put this one on. If it gets too humid, put this one on. The downside to the dehumidifier is it produces heat.
Heat, yes.
It blows out heat. That's sort of the downside.
But at the same time, if you're running you run a dehumidifier 24/7, and that's giving off heat. Then surely you could, if your room stays at say 24, 25 Celsius steady, you then would not need for the summer months and the spring months. You would not need the heaters on in the tanks.
Heat. I don't heat tanks, but yeah, you're right. The dehumidifier would keep the room at a certain temperature. I use in the spring and autumn, I use my dehumidifier as my heat source.
Yeah, that's what I was doing in the winter. Well, man comes on in winter. I don't use it in summer.
The other thing with mine is because I've heavily insulated this room, I don't really get condensation anyway.
You hit the sweet spot. That's why.
Yeah, I've got my ceiling's got 100 mil of insulation in, so that's 4-inch in the States. My walls have got 2-inch of insulation, and it's closed cell insulation. So Kingspan it's called in the UK. It's like a silver, thick silver
Made here?
backed foam
Made where
board,
I am?
made in Hull, actually. Yeah.
I used to work for him, Glenn.
So everyone's saying dehumidifier. Everyone's mind thinks alike because we're all saying the same.
Yes, it's the biggest solution, because if you don't have a dehumidifier and you've constantly got very high humidity, what tends to happen? Mold will form on the walls. You'll get black spotted mold, and the spores spread like wildfire.
I don't know if the video's out, but I did. There's a little bit where my window is in the room. There's a little bit of exposed brickwork where the people before me cut the brick out. It's only a single brick building, and I did get mold on that. And I've actually I put a mold paint on top of it. It's in one of my videos. I'm surprised everything's alive in this room because the fumes off this paint.
My bedroom windowsill. I actually I've actually had to PVA tinfoil on top of it. Then on top of the tinfoil, I've painted a damp course membrane. Then on top of that, I've painted like an anti-chip white paint, and I've done it all the way around the sill. And where my window was going mouldy, it stopped going mouldy now. Yeah.
Well, this hasn't since, but that was probably the only place where cold and heat would meet to create a condensation.
Yeah.
And I sprayed it with this stuff. In fact, I've got it right here.
Glenn, I'm just going to show FM. I'm just going to FM. You can actually buy this. I'll show you. It's polycarbonate sheet. It's designed for
we both use that.
Polycarbonate sheet, and then you can cut your lids. You can cut your lids to how you want them.
4 mil.
4
mil, 3 mil.
Small lid. You can even put an handle on them to make them look funky.
3 or 4 mil, that, Rob?
4 mil thick.
Yeah, Rob put me onto that as well. So this is what I used on that area. It's just so happens to still be in the room, but it was a spray, and the fumes in here, I couldn't breathe, and I'd got the window open and all the doors open, and I ended up having to put an extractor fan in here to pull the fumes out. I was surprised I didn't. I think I lost 1 shrimp because it must have sort of, the fumes must have got picked up by the air pumps. Unreal stuff. I wouldn't use it again.
Also, turn your air pumps off if you're using air pumps when you're spraying in the room. Them air pumps will absorb aerosols.
So, Kaz has said she didn't. Why did she say clams? She meant limpets. Do you know what I do with limpets, Kaz?
Ask question.
Yeah, when I see them on the glass, I've got like a soil spade, and I just squish them, and the shrimp eat them.
Yeah, you won't ever get fully rid of them. Just accept them.
So yeah, Rob's obviously just answered this one for FM. I use exactly the same stuff. Have I got any? I buy sheets of it and cut it to size. So this is that's probably half a sheet, but it's exactly the same stuff, just with the cover on. It's I've got a feeling it's 3 mil or 4 mil.
4 mil. 4 mil thick.
It's like a ribbed polycarbonate sheet.
4 mils are standard British size.
It's the thinnest one you can get, isn't it? 4 mil. Don't
4 mil, yeah.
One for the dual layered one, you know, with the double wall. I think that's the smallest you can get. Is 4 mil, which is the same as my glass sliding lids. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Paul.
those plastic, I don't know if I've got one to hand. Those plastic sheets, those polycarbonate sheets on Temu or AliExpress, you can buy like little clip-on, little tank clips that just slot over the glass. And I just put one in each corner, cut it shorter than it needs to be, so you've still got a little bit of gap. But they clip in.
You mean these, Glenn?
Yeah, AliExpress, I think I got them from, or I might get them on Temu. You buy them in like bags of 10, 12, whatever. But they work as well.
Packs of 10 they're coming.
Any recommendations on a dehumidifier? I bought mine off Amazon. It's mine's quite big.
I'll give you one bit of advice. Don't buy a cheap Chinese-made one with a name you've never heard, because I've already gone through two. I'm on my third one, and now I'm on a Bosch one. And I thought, buy cheap, buy twice. And I learned that mistake. I paid the extra £49, and it runs like a dream.
Eco Air mine is.
Yeah, I know Eco Air.
I think it was on offer 90 quid on Amazon. See if I can turn and show it you. Mine's pretty big. So that's my forearm. So my dehumidifier is pretty big. But it was ideal for this room. It gives out enough heat that in spring and autumn. So that's the Eco Air. I've got a feeling it was 90 quid or something like that. It might have been a bit dearer, but I've got a feeling it was not 90 quid. Cheap plastic wood can work. Corrugated plastic even.
Well, this polycarbonate is actually corrugated inside, so once you make a lid, it tends. I've used acrylic. I've used plexiglass before, and plexiglass actually bends.
Yeah.
It can actually absorb water.
Acrylic 100% bends. It consumes water. 100%.
I don't get a bend off these.
Polycarbonate. Yeah, but in fact, I bought my last one from B&Q. It was, I think it was 15 quid for a big sheet, and the ones on Amazon, the ones on Amazon were about 12 quid. But I think shipping was about 12 quid as well.
I paid £54 for 14 sheets.
So Corex is really expensive. Proplex is what I've got on my tanks here. So this is Proplex. These are Proplex sheets here, just with magnets on, connects into the rack. John gave me that idea as well. If anyone is looking for lids to acrylic cutting boards.
Do you mean so if they have like a recessed rebated lid and little edge on them, so when you sit them in the tanks, it doesn't slide backwards and forwards? You can achieve that, Kaz, by using polycarbonate like this
and trim it in a certain way.
Underneath, yeah. Watch, I'll just show you something. This is done. This double layered, and the inside layer actually sits. So when that goes down, it sits below the tank level, and it doesn't move backwards and forwards.
Temu.
Yeah, it's you, Rebecca. It's used a lot for in a lot of people use that Proplex in guinea pig enclosures.
What are those? I think they're called aquarium lid clips or something like that.
I just put fish tank lid clips. All sorts comes up like.
That 15 quid from B&Q. If any of you follow the channel, you'll know that I've been, up until the last few weeks or months, I for 3 months couldn't get out of the house. I couldn't drive, couldn't get in the car. I was in so much, I just couldn't get in it. And then when I got in it, I had to fly out because I was in so much pain. And the very first time I tried I drove the car when I sort of started to get a bit better, was to go and pick one of them up from B&Q, click and collect. It was it was the very first time I did it. Yeah, I think Corex is expensive if you go for certain colours. I think it's the coloured Corex. We looked at the Proplex is about £6, and I think the similar Corex in grey was about £90.
Hello, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
Oh, she's got lots lying around. It's good stuff. If you want to like make a screen like Glenn's done as well, it's good for that, and you can put magnets on it. If you use a metal rack, you can just pop them on and off, and it makes it.
Yeah.
It makes a rack. It gives that illusion that it almost gives you a fish shop feel. Yeah, like that.
So I've literally just, this is Proplex. I've literally just put stuck some magnets to them.
Magnets,
but
yeah, that's right.
John Buckley uses 3M tape, so he's got 3M magnetic tape. But I just, for the amount I needed to do, I thought the 3M tape was really expensive.
The magnetic tape, yeah, but it's still, I'd rather go for the extra. You see, I've not done it yet, and that tape appeals to me more than just the little magnets in areas.
Tell me that when you look how much it is.
I know how much it costs. I've already looked.
The tape's quite, and I'm not too bothered because it's I can just, it does the job for me. And the only reason I did it, to be honest, I would have left them open, but the reason I did it was because when I'm filming the tanks, without that cover, I got so much sort of light back at me, and that makes a massive difference. So I paint the back of my tanks with an artist's acrylic, but Kaz said that she uses bathroom paint. When I painted the walls and the ceilings in here, that's exactly what I used, bathroom paint.
Yeah, because it does when it gets moist. Because if you paint a tank lid and you put cold water in the tank and you get condensation, if you use bad paint, you get all that.
See, to paint my tanks, I use artist's acrylics. It's fine.
I use black acrylic. You have to use more coats, but it does the job.
So I literally use artist's acrylic paint. So someone who was sort of doing a painting with acrylic and brush strokes and stuff, just artist's acrylics, and I use a blue or a black, depending on where it is on the rack. And he's reading the comments.
I'm trying not to be ignorant. That's what if someone says hi and I go like that, that's what I'm doing. Or I hate missing anybody out. I like to give everyone a slice of the cake. You know what I mean?
So plants, botanicals, and decor. Personally, I use Bucephalandra. I use certain mosses and some Anubias, and they're all on things that I can move. So flame moss, because I can move it because it doesn't adhere to anything. Hookeration moss on mesh pads because I can lift it out, but I've let it get way too out of control, and now you only need to touch it and it breaks off. Loads of different boosts, some from Rob, some I've bought in myself, but everything I've got can be moved. So if I need to empty a tank to catch shrimp, I can just literally take everything out into a bucket.
That's why I like Anubias and Bucephalandra, because it's if you fit it to the right pieces. When it comes to having a little, if you want to have a reset, for instance, it's just a case of pulling out, putting it in a bucket, do your tank, plop it back in, done.
Yep. So, any other decor you'd use, Rob?
Decor wise, I mean, we're talking shrimp tanks here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Chollerwood. I love Chollerwood. Yep. I like to also have Thistendon's moss. I love my Thistendons. You know, I collect rare mosses as well, so I've got some Fissendens nobilis and some
Boost
Fissendens
moss.
mirakoshi, which is like a Japanese version. I also have a hybrid moss, a Fissendens cross Bucephalandra moss.
Yeah.
I got it off Daniel. It was actually made by a Ukrainian before the war. Before the war started, a top plant guy in Ukraine actually hybridized some mosses together.
Would you keep Java?
No,
Why?
it's because I ate it like duckweed. Because Java grows,
Sticks to it.
and then you've got a
Sticks to
little bit.
everything.
You put a little bit in, and it grows, and it grows, and then if you trim it, you ain't never getting rid of it unless you reset the tank.
Yeah, I've had. I've recently took a piece of. I pulled a piece of boost off piece of lava rock, and I threw the lava rock away. And I threw the lava rock away because it had got bits of Java in it, and it was easier to throw the rock away than get rid of the Java, because you ain't getting rid of it. I could have bleached.
I've done the same with some of your lava rock. What I got off you, there was some moss attached to it. It was Java moss, and it just wouldn't go away. I scrubbed it, put it back in. It grew back. So I was like, I throw the rock, I throw it. It went in the bin.
What about shrimp tubes, stuff like that?
Used to have the little shrimp tube. They don't bring nothing to the table. The only thing you can do with them, the only thing I found they're good for, is putting a little bit of moss inside them.
Yep.
Then allowing it to grow out of the tubes and the little pots.
Yep. See, I've got a customer who bought a load off me of the I think they're 3, 4, 5, 6 tube, but it was because he keeps quite bare tanks, and there was a lot of sort of male on female aggression, and he just wanted to give them somewhere to hide.
Yeah.
So he used the ceramic shrimp tube type things. I personally don't use anything like that. I've got some coconut.
For me now, the less the better. I've been through the phase of having your tanks all planted up, floating plants, little pots, little tubes, little shrimp tubes, acrylic things, and you're just making more work for yourself.
Yeah,
because if you want to see minimal is best because you see the shrimp more.
I like cholla with a bit of boost on it. I like lava rock and the odd bit of driftwood here and there.
I always have these in a tank as well.
So my tanks have always got some type of leaf in them. So mainly Indian almond leaf, occasionally jackfruit leaf. I feed spinach. I feed, when I can get it, mulberry leaf. But I've usually always got some sort of leaf in the tank. As a biofilm creator, Indian almond leaf has alleged antiseptic, antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, which sort of boost. And I've usually always got something. The only other thing I've got is I've got an anubias on a coconut half coconut shell in one of my tanks.
Yeah, I've got one of them too, a coconut bracelet with anubias, and unfortunately, it looks like Java moss.
If you had it from me,
it's actually starting to grow. It's growing over the anubias.
If you had it from me, it was.
It was what you added to that order, if you remember, as an extra. You added me a coconut bracelet with anubias.
It's Java moss. Sorry. You needed. There was a few quid you needed to add to that plant order, and you says just choose something. And I looked at something.
If anybody wants any Java in the UK, hit me up because I'm going to take it out of the tank anytime soon.
and knowing Rob, he'll give it you.
Yeah, they can have it.
So yeah, always got something. Although saying that, I'm just looking at a rock down here, and it was from one of the rhizomes from the bunch of boosts that you sent me. There weren't much on it. I glued the rhizome on, and it's ended up with what looks like Java moss, but it might be boost moss. I need to zoom in and have a look, but I think it's.
I mean, this is boost moss. This is false moss.
Oh, it could be.
And then you've got sexy mosses like that.
It could be, but it does look, if I'm brutally honest, it does look like Java to me.
Then you've got horrible Java.
So I might have to end up incinerating that rock.
Yeah, bleach it, boil it. I use
Cool.
oak leaves, Rebecca. I use oak leaves as well.
Yeah, oak leaves, beech leaves, walnut
I collect my own
leaves.
oak leaves. Yeah. Yeah, I do like oak leaves.
Quercus rubber leaves. Let's yeah, Kaz loves the botanicals. I do use other stuff from time to time, so I do use some of the other botanicals that I sell. I tend not to because I sell them. It's like an ice. It's like an ice cream man eating.
Have you got them on hand to show them? The Turkish hazelnuts. Do you have them?
Yeah, I haven't got any in tanks.
Oh, but have you? Show. These are really good to put in a tank, and more people should buy them.
There's another name for them. I can't think what it is.
And the fruit, it's a gumball.
Oh no, let's find one.
Turkish gumball.
I don't know if I've got any. Let's see if I can. I know where they'll be.
They're a Turkish. They're a tree from Turkey.
Hexen. I don't want to open the bag because I've only got a couple left. If I open the bag,
I'll tell you what then, Glenn. Open the bag and I'll buy that bag. I'll buy that bag off you because I could do with some of these in my shrimp tank. That's mine now. I'll pay you later.
The only thing I'd say about these is, after a period, you need to take them out.
Yeah, let them dry off and then soak them again because they keep regrowing biofilm around them as well. Really good botanical, these. Everybody should have these. They're a Turkish from the Turkish hazelnut tree.
Hazelnut tree, yeah. It's the shell off the hazelnut.
The gumbo, yeah, that's right. Baby shrimp really love them. Really love them.
The only thing I don't like about them is if you leave them for too long, they break down.
There you are, Glenn. Kaz wants the other bag.
Add it to your order. They're called Hexen. I need to get an order in with him actually, Peter. If he's I did message him not long ago and he hasn't replied.
He's actually selling on Amazon now as well.
Is he? Oh, I saw that actually. Yeah, I saw that.
Rebecca, they're a hazelnut pod. Really good for growing biofilm on them as well, and you do get a lot of tannins from it. So I would advise them in a black water tank, definitely. You get some nice tannins off it.
So yeah, I sell lots of botanicals, various different leaves.
Wait till you see all these guys.
Seeds. I do. I think it was Ricky bought a luxury botanicals box off me, and he actually says, I couldn't believe how much was in it. He says the stacks. So this is, if anyone wants to see one, this is my standard botanicals box. Let's see if I can
flip the camera and do it from behind.
This is my standard box. And there's stacks of leaves underneath that as well. So there's various different leaves, cobra leaves, pod seeds, Indian almond bark, There's loads of stuff. It actually lists on the website what's in them. But
They're well worth the money.
I say it bugs me.
They're really
I've
good
opened
for value.
a bag of SL soil yesterday, and
Glenn, someone's asking how much do you do your box for? How much is a standard box?
I think it's a tenner. I think it's
And
a
there's-
tenner. I'm not.
And I'm gonna say there's one available on eBay. I'm not gonna name names or companies. There's one available on eBay, and you get next to nothing, and it's about £14.
I think it's a tenner. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's a tenner.
Botanicals are good to have.
The what shocked me was the aqua curls. I'd never had them, and I got them in, and they were like, well, they're probably the size of my forearm.
Yeah, they're nice. They're nice.
And I can't get them. I keep trying to reorder them. I can't get them. So let's go through a couple of questions, and then we'll go on to the last one. Glad you bought them. To easy to move around. Keith says he loves Boosaw Anubius. Unplugs. Yeah, they're great. Easy to move around. Keith seems to collect rare algae.
I keep a lot of Booster Flandria, like Keith says, on little terracotta rings. Then all they have to do is take the Anubius out.
So Kaz says she dips in boiling water. This is 100% true. This is. I'm so convinced with my sauce for my leaves that I don't soak them. That they literally go in the tank.
Yeah, man. Oh, I'm the same with these. These go. I know where they come from, so they go straight into a tank.
Yeah, they go straight in the tank. I've got phytosanitary certificates with them imported direct from the country of origin for my Indian almond and jackfruit. Anyway,
to import them, they have to be tested and stuff.
Quercus roba leaves. Don't know what those are, but I'd love some quercifolia.
Ruba leaves are like a small thin leaf, but I do believe that it's one of the most common leaves what's found at the bottom of the Amazon River. I may be wrong.
There is a plant with a similar name that I want. It's called quercifolia something, and it's not for the fish. It's not for the aquariums. It's for the frog tank. It's oak leaf ficus. Ficus quercifolia.
Ficus leaf. That's. I think I'm sure it's from a ficus tree. The ones in the Amazon.
Oh, probably then. English oak, brilliant. Boil it off anything. Quercus is the oak genus.
Oh, it's the oak, right? Okay.
Acer, Campestra. I need some too if there's any. I think there's one. Well, there's definitely one pack. There might be more. Standard box.
The other ones.
I think the standard box is a tenner. Yeah, the seed pods. Yeah. Yeah, them aquacurls are brilliant. I was really shocked. Somebody bought the last one and it was small, but half of it was missing. So I'll give it him and give him something else on top of it. I messaged him first. Fishmas in July. Dipstones with Java moss. Okay, last one. I'm really struggling with my back. So last one, guys. Thank everyone for sticking around. Is something that we get in the shrimp hobby, and it's called. I think it is a genuine thing called multiple tank syndrome or MTS. I don't think you can have, if you probably only want to try them, you could probably get away with just having a mixed tank, and that's it. But once you start getting into keeping others and breeding them, you'll want another tank. So how do you combat multiple tank syndrome? I mean, I've got an opinion on this. What you do is you keep getting tanks until you physically can't fit any more in your house, or you get divorced and you end up somewhere and you end up somewhere else. I had racks in the house, and I ended up moving in here because it was either that or a divorce, and it was cheaper to set the room up. But I'm even this is true. I'm even thinking about where I've got other real estate in the room that I could utilize. I'm thinking about it constantly. You know, what do I do? And I've made the decision to get rid of a couple of my colonies and concentrate on another couple of lines. But I already know where I can put other stuff in here. I could get another 2 tanks somewhere in here of a certain size. I know I could. I've already measured up and thought, yeah, well, if I move that, I can put that there.
I do the same thing all the time. Where there's a space, there could be a tank.
Well, Rob's expanded out of the room into the hallway.
Onto the landing.
And there's already plans of a 12-footer downstairs.
Someday.
So yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. If you want to get into Caridina shrimp, if you want to breed Caridina shrimp, you're going to need more than 1 tank. And it's where does it stop? I was definitely in the Pokemon shrimp category. Got to get them all.
It depends how many flavors of shrimp you want.
Yeah, and I wanted everything.
You need.
But I've had to be realistic, you know, and think, well, actually, do I need these, or do I just get rid of these and have something else? And I've made the decision that, you know, there's some shrimp in my collection that
focus on the few and not the many. Focus on the few and not the many.
I'd sooner have 2 different strains and multiple tanks of each of those strains and try and progress the genetics than have poke shrimp.
That's the way to go. The way to do it.
So that's just my evolution. I don't know if Rob's got anything to say on multiple tank syndrome. Just go with it, man.
Go with it. You cannot beat it.
Kaz is a perfect example of MTS.
Yeah.
I think Kaz is trying to catch up with Daniel.
She's well on the way.
How to combat MTS, buy more racks. Let's go through this. So this is for the previous one that I missed. Palms are found in certain South American habitats. They grow a hell of a lot of biofilm.
Yeah,
seem to produce
a lot of frond palms, a lot of frond palm leaves. They're not that easy to get in the UK, but when you buy them, they come in these big leaves. They look like a giant banana leaf with loads of leaves coming off. You get way more tannins than you see your banana leaf and your catappa, for instance. And the biofilm, what it grows on them is immense.
I was on holiday in Tenerife, and just outside the hotel a couple of years ago, just outside the hotel, I think I sent you photos, Rob. And they've got some sort of juvenile banana leaves, and I'm looking around for a hatchet, thinking, how many of them can I get in my suitcase?
Don't go on holiday to find botanicals.
How to combat MTS, buy more racks. Well, you know.
Yeah.
At some point, you're gonna plateau and hit a wall. Either you've got too many that you can manage, you run out of space, or your wife deserts you, and you have to
what I tend to do in that situation,
or your husband.
I'll remove in my bed, because my fish room is my bedroom. I'll remove my drawers. I'll remove anything what's not needed, and I will replace it with a rack, because I know on that rack I can get another 12 tanks.
I've got stock upstairs in the spare bedroom, and I've got stock in the loft. That if somebody said, "Oh, I want to buy one of them," I'd go, you know, stuff that doesn't move, like small tanks and stuff like that that I don't ship, they collect only. But if someone bought one and wanted to come and collect it, I'd go up in the loft and get it out. How to solve MTS? Attend the AAA meetings on a Wednesday. Yeah, if you want, someone wants to put Jeff's a link to Jeff. That doesn't solve
a link
it.
to Jeff's.
That just adds to it. I think you're right, Kaz. Just go with the flow. You keep collecting tanks. You do. You're a tank collector.
You do know when too much is too much. I've been there, to the point where what usually maintenance-wise would take a day is taking you several days, and then you're like,
then it becomes a job.
Decisions have to be made. Some tanks have to be shut down. I went through a phase of that myself, but now because I've made my system previous even better for emptying water, filling up, new RO, soft water, hard water. I'm now in a position I can do it all and more in one day.
That's why
as well.
That's why I'm filming lots of vlog stuff, because stuff's always changing for me.
I mean,
I'm always trying to improve.
I am in my room, no matter where I am, I have water. I turn that, I get fresh water, and it's all been been filtered. It's also been dechlorinated as well through a HMA filter.
I think that's the next step for me, and that's to bring the
this
RO unit indoors.
This can be clamped onto a tank, and then you just turn the tap. I ain't going to turn it because water will come out, and away you go.
That's my next. I think that's my next one. I want to pipe water into here. So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm manually dropping a pump in the water, but outside, running some RO tubing off that into the bins in here, turning it on, filling the bins. But what I do want to do is, once I get my water feed in here, I'm going to move the RO unit and feed inside and out at the same time. So my 80 litre bin in here and my 100 litre outside will always be full. My 100 litre outside is a backup system. And then what I'll do is I'll run a pump in that back into that system. So even though it's full, what I'll do is I'll bypass it. So if my bin in here is empty, I can literally just pump it back from outdoor, and then it fills both up again. So it's definitely going to happen at some point. Been bit by the shrimp bug.
Yeah, it's real. The shrimp bug is real.
Yeah, big business for the Canaries, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So it must have been a large. Oh, that's a big pan on that for a 200 litre tank. So we'll have to cut it down. This is what I mean. You can get them like that, and you can get them like that. So
this sort of takes me off in a little bit of a tangent and goes on to botanicals a little bit. So bananas are great to go. The Chinese one is reasonably hardy.
Yeah.
You can use cinnamon in a shrimp tank, but there are two types of cinnamon. One of them is toxic. It contains a chemical called something like mysocurin or something like that. And I think it's a Chinese cinnamon. In one of the cinnamons, it's really high, and in the Sri Lankan cinnamon, it's non-existent. Mysocurin or something like that. I can't think of the name of it, but I've definitely read it. But yeah, it's people often sort of go, "Oh, we can use cinnamon." They'll go and buy cheap Chinese cinnamon sticks and wipe the shrimp tank out because of this something curing. I can't think of the name of it, but definitely one to work on. And I only thought about that because the Chinese banana tree, it's two types of cinnamon. One's good in a shrimp tank, and one will kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive. I've been to both islands actually. My wife didn't like Gran Canaria. I really enjoyed it. we stopped down just outside Puerto Rico, and I've been fishing on both islands. Didn't catch anything on Gran Canaria, but we did, and it was rough. Seas were rough, but I've had a few. I've had shark and rays and all sorts in, and some tuna over in Tenerife. I think it's on about bananas.
Yeah.
It said that to me about rescuing animals. You will know when to stop, not the F you stop. Well, we were actually looking at rescues the other day as well, actually. So this is Jeff's channel. So Jeff does a live stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. UK time, I believe, 8:30. AAA, Aquatics Anonymous or something. Aquatic Addicts Anonymous. So that's how you don't combat MTS. I tell you what, though, if I had Jeff space for tanks, I would have BTS, billion tank syndrome. There's so much room he's got there. Possibly. I've not really looked into it, but I know people have grown lucky bamboo in shrimp tank in aquariums. I don't know about shrimp tanks.
I don't see why you could not.
Because people do scapes with bamboo, don't they?
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen some with bamboo shoots using it to make it look like trees.
Yeah,
but
forest scapes and stuff. Yeah,
they actually have to drill holes to release the air pockets in the bamboo.
Because the centre of the bamboo's buoyant, isn't it? It's like that foamy stuff.
Yeah. Right, is that done, Chief?
Yeah, Kuramin, that's it. Kuramin. Cheap food grade cinnamon has it in. That's where people make the mistake. So the only cinnamon is what they call Ceylon cinnamon, which is Sri Lanka.
Yeah, the one I use.
Some people use bamboo for breeding. Some of the loricades. Yeah, I don't see why not. Cool. What time are we? Well, my watch has died. Is it 10 o'clock?
3 minutes to 10.
Wow. Possibly, yeah. Is a Dracaena a houseplant? I'm sure I've seen people with it sort of hanging in the top of the tank, you know, like people do pothos. I'm sure I've seen people do lucky bamboo with that, but it's a Dracaena
lucky
plant.
Bamboo, you can, yeah. Put the ropes in water.
Oh, dried leaves, bamboo. It's a grass, isn't it, really? I don't see why not. Probably needs a bit of research, but I don't see why not. I'm pretty much done, guys, and as you can see, I'm really struggling with my back at the moment. So I had a procedure on Sunday. Is it a week, Rob? Wasn't this Sunday? Was it? It was last Sunday. And by all accounts, it can take up to 3 to 4 weeks to start working. If anything, I'm worse. I'm worse than I was before I had it, and I really mean that. It's I'm having to take medication to sleep because I'm in so much blooming pain. But cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up there. I know Rob's a night owl, and he'll probably go live himself. But thanks everybody for watching. I'll drop all the links in. I'll repost this once it's processed and stuff. But with that being said, thanks for watching and look forward to the next one.
In, guys.
Take care. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Rob.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.